I am Taposh Pal from Department of Mathematics, IIT Kharagpur, India. Today I am presenting this paper, Chosen Ciphertext Secure, Multi-Identity and Multi-Attribute Pure Fully Homomorphic Encryption. Okay, first of all, what is fully homomorphic encryption? It is just a plain public key encryption, but with an additional algorithm like eval. So each user now encrypting their messages and uploading this their ciphertext into the server, so that we can delegate the server to compute our ciphertext over a circuit C. And now the any decryptor who is having secret key corresponding to the public key pk can learn this c of m. C of m means the circuit evaluated on the message m. So there are a few properties which we need for this fully homomorphic encryption to satisfy. First of one is the compactness properties. In compactness, we want that the evaluated ciphertext, whatever the server is evaluating over our encrypted data, that we call the evaluated ciphertext, and the evaluated ciphertext should be independent of the size of the circuit. And in case that if it depend on the depth of the circuit, then we call it a labeled fully homomorphic encryption. And if the ciphertext doesn't depend on the depth of the circuit, then we call it a pure fully homomorphic encryption. And for security, security is same as the plain public key encryption. Since the evaluation is public algorithm, therefore we don't need to define security over that algorithm. We just define in a natural way as for public key encryption that we have defined. So given two messages M0 and M1 from the adversary's end, the challenger will encrypt one of them and give it to the adversary. Now the adversary task is to distinguish between the encryption of these two messages. So this is the normal CPA type security. We can also define CCA security, but not CCA2 security, since this is fully homomorphic encryption. So in CCA1 security, the adversary is also given access the decryption oracle before receiving the challenge ciphertext. So again, adversary will submit two messages, and then it will receive encryption of one of these messages, and therefore the task is to distinguish between the encryption of these two messages. Okay, so the next one is multi-key fully homomorphic encryption. So in multi-key fully homomorphic encryption, there is a group leader who will generate a public parameter for the whole group, and then through the keygen algorithm, it will generate in public key secret key pairs for the group members. Now each group member will encrypt messages using their own public key and submit it to the server. Server will extend their ciphertext over all the public keys, and after that we can again let the server to compute our ciphertext over a circuit C, so that now all the group members can collaborate with their own secret keys and can learn the message, which is now C of M. So this is the overall concept of multi-key fully homomorphic encryption. Now, what is multi-identity fully homomorphic encryption? This is the same as identity-based encryption, but we are now defining an additional algorithm, which is eval. I mean, the letting the server to compute our circuits over the encrypted messages. So there is a authority. The authority will generate a public parameter or and secret key, master secret key, MSK. So it will use the key generation algorithm to generate secret keys corresponding to the identities of the group members. So that now, like in normal identity based encryption, each member of the group can now encrypt messages using their own identities. So IDJ will be used in place of the public keys. So the public keys are now itself the identities of the user. So the user will encrypt messages using their identities and uploading we upload the ciphertext to the server, and the server can evaluate on a circuit C, so that now the group members has to come with their secret keys corresponding to their identities they need to share their secret keys to learn the message, which is now C of M. And again, we have this set of properties that compactness, that the ciphertext size should be independent of the circuit size, and if it does not depend on the depth also, then we call it pure multi-identity, pure fully homomorphic encryption. And to define CCA1 type security, and here the adversary will be given two oracle access. One is key generation algorithm, and another is the decryption algorithm. So in keygen, the adversary will can ask the secret keys corresponding to the identities, and it will just run the keygen algorithm. And then in the decryption phase, decryption oracle, the adversary can query with ID and ciphertext C. So the decryption oracle first compute the identities corresponding to the secret keys corresponding to the identities ID, and then it will use it to decrypt the ciphertext C. And since this is a CCA1 security, so the adversary will be given access to this decryption oracle just before the challenge ciphertext. The adversary is receiving the challenge ciphertext. Up until that, the adversary will be given access to the decryption oracle. So here ID star is the challenge identity, and M0, M1 are the pair of challenge messages. Okay, so these are the set of applications of multi-key FHE or multi-identity FHE, like multi-party computation, obfuscation and functional encryption, combiners, homomorphic secret sharing, multi-party obfuscation, homomorphic time lock puzzle, ad hoc multi-input functional encryption. Okay, let's just quickly overview the previous works regarding multi-identity fully homomorphic encryption. First of all, we have seen construction of identity-based FHE by Janeshri, Shahai, and Waters in 2013, but these are only based on, the ciphertext. All the ciphertext should be encrypted under the same identity. And then it will, this construction has been extended by this Clare and McGoldrick work 2015 in the multi-identity city. But one drawback was that construction of FHE cannot be bootstrapped into pure FHE. So the first pure multi-identity FHE was given by Clare and McGoldrick in 2015. It was based on indistinguishable ways of obfuscation, IO, and another IO based, sub-exponential IO to be very specific, based multi-identity pure FHE we have seen by Canetti et al. In 2017. So what we just seen, that all the prior works of MIFHE are either CPU secure or based on the powerful primitive of indistinguishability based obfuscation. Right. So one natural question comes into our mind, that is it possible to construct its own secure MIFHE, or we can build it without using IO? Using some tools which are weaker than IO. Okay. So this is the goal of our work. So here is the contribution. So first of all, we develop on identity-based encryption using a weaker primitive than IO, which is witness random function WPRF, and using a special signature scheme, all but one signature scheme. And one special feature is that our IB CCA2 secure, and it is of optimal ciphertext. Ciphertext size is very small. And then we convert our IB into a CC1 secure multi-identity pure FH. Okay, so before going into the construction, let us just see what is witness pseudonym function for any NP language with relation R. Witness pseudonym function was introduced by Zendry in TCC 2016. Basically, it has this three set of algorithm: generation, eval, and def. So the generation will take the relation circuit R, and it will generate two keys. One is function secret key FK, and another is public evaluation key EK. So the one who is having this FK can generate any pseudonym value. Can generate a pseudonym value Y corresponding to any statement X. This X may belongs to the language or may not be, but we can generate pseudonym values corresponding to X if we have this FK. However, if we don't have FK and we are having only public evaluation key EK, then to recover the same pseudonym value Y, we need to have a valid witness W corresponding to the statement X. So this is the task of public evaluator. Okay. So security is saying that suppose the adversary is given Oracle access to the safe algorithm, then if X does not belongs to the language, the adversary cannot distinguish the honestly computed Y from a random Y. Okay, so if our xw is 0 for any w, that means that our x does not belong to the language L, then y should be looks like pseudo-random to the adversary. Okay, so what is our approach? So this is the basic approach of obtaining IB using witness PRF and this normal signature scheme. So we are taking this identity space to be 0 1 to the power lambda to generate any secret keys corresponding to an identity ID. We just run the signatures algorithm. We are signing this ID using SK, and sigma will be the secret keys corresponding to the identity. So to encrypt messages with respect to ID, we first consider a PRG. PRG is a length doubling PRG. G we are taking as a length doubling PRG, and then we are considering this language for witness PRF. So the statements are of the form ID, VVK. VK is the verification key corresponding to the signature scheme. So this is the statement ID VVK, and the witness is of two types. If say use a lambda bit string, then we want either you to be satisfy this G ID XOR U equal to V, or you must be a signature, valid signature corresponding to the identity ID. So therefore, in encryption, we'll generate U from 0 1 to the power lambda. We'll pick a random U from 0 1 to the power lambda, and we'll be generating the one statement, valid statement, like V equal to G of ID XOR U. So therefore, we have a valid statement like ID VVK, and corresponding witness is U. So we will generate one randomness using wprf.eval, and using this randomness, we will apply sk.gen. Here sk is a symmetric key encryption algorithm. So we are generating one symmetric key by using this randomness. Key of a symmetric encryption using this randomness, and then the task is simple. We just encrypt the message our using this symmetric key K, and V will be the header. So this is like KEM approach. Okay. So the decryption is very simple. I am not discussing here because if you have a sigma, the secret keys corresponding to the identity ID, then we can use to generate the same pseudorandom value corresponding to the statement ID VVK. So therefore, you can recover K using V, and then you can decrypt the ciphertext. Okay, so since I have promised that this IB should be a CCA2 secure, for that we need to have this. There are some drawback of this approach. Like to establish CCA2 secure, we need to rely on the extractability property of witness random function. But this is a strong property. To achieve extractability is, it's not an easy task. And another problem is that we need to have the CCA2 secured symmetric key encryption, but that does not preserve the compactness that I have told you that the IB should be, the ciphertext size of the IB should be compact. So, but there are solutions. Yes. So the first one is that we need to replace the normal signature scheme by all but one signature scheme from this GVW19 paper. So all but one signature is a special type of signature scheme where in setup we can puncture the signing key using a particular message, so that that message will not have any signature, any valid signature. Right. So this is all but one signature, and this can be obtained from a verifiable random function or computationally binding commitment scheme. So yes, this can be achieved easily. So this is the first solution to the first problem, that we need to replace all the signature scheme by all but one signatures to remove the extractability property of witness PRF from the security proof. And another thing is that we observe that we don't need the full CCS security of SK. We just need a symmetric key encryption, which is kinda secure, CCA secure, from these two paper HR03 and HR04, which we call length preserving CCA secure, where the adversary is restricted to query the encryption oracle with the challenge messages. So this kind of SK symmetric key encryption exists, like CMC or ECM modes of operation with AES, you can say. So yes, we can use this type of length preserving CCA secure SKE in our construction. And if we use this, then we achieve CCA to secure identity based encryption with an optimal size ciphertext, like modem plus 2 lambda. This is the ciphertext size of our IP. Okay, with this modification, I will be describing how to achieve CCA1 secure MIFHE, multi-identity pure FHE, using our IB construction. So we are using, I mean, the key generation is same. That means corresponding to each identity ID J, we are generating the secret keys like signing, we are signing this ID J using the secret key. And encryption is still same. I mean, we are considering this language, but now the verification key is the verification key of the ABOS, all but one signature scheme. We just generate U from 01 to the power lambda, and we need to construct this IDVVK, that statement pair. But this time I will be using a multi-key pure FHE scheme. Multi-key pure FHE scheme in place of the symmetric key encryption. So in place of symmetric key encryption, we just use this randomness to generate a public key secret key pair corresponding to the identity IDJ. And then we'll be encrypting our messages MJ using this PKJ. So this is the ciphertext, the ciphertext of the MFHE for the message MJ under PKJ. And we need to also publish VJ as the header, and PKJ is the public key. So the next algorithm is the I think it should be the expand algorithm. Sorry, this is the evaluation algorithm of MIFHE, in which we will be using the expand and evaluation algorithm of the underlying MFHE, multi-key FHE. So first we are having this, this set of ciphertext for all the group members. So we have n group members, then we have this ciphertext CJ, VJ, and PKJ, and each ciphertext will be expanded under the under all public keys of the all group members. I mean, so we are expanding this CJ under all PK1, PK2, PKN using a MFHE.expand algorithm. Then we have a circuit C. So we now can actually evaluate over the circuit C. So we have this expanded ciphertext here, C1 up to Cn hat. So we are expanding, we are evaluating over this expanded ciphertext to get the ultimate ciphertext. So the evaluation algorithm will return this evaluated ciphertext C hat, and these are the components in the ciphertext, VJ and PKJ for J belongs to box. Now to decrypt, I have already told you that to decrypt the ciphertext, we need to collaborate. I mean, the group members need to collaborate with their own secret keys, like sigma 1 to up to sigma n. So so we'll be generating this the same serial random value, since we have sigma j, which is the valid signature corresponding to IDJ. Therefore, for this statement, we can generate the same serial random value as we have generated during the encryption. So we will be calculating this PKJ and SKJ. Now we can verify whether this PKJ is actually matches with the PKJ in the ciphertext component. So the next step is to verification. I mean, we are verifying the public keys that we are computing with the MFHE keygen and with the public keys that are already available in the ciphertext. If these two public keys are matches, then if these two public keys are same, then we will go to the further step. We will be using this SK1, SK2, SKN. Sorry, this will be N, capital N. So PKJ and SKJ we are computing from this MFHE keygen algorithm. So we have our SK1, SK2 up to SKN. So we will be decrypting our ultimate ciphertext, which is C hat, using SK1, SK2 up to SKL. So this is the overall idea how we are achieving multi-identity pure fully homomorphic encryption using witness PRF and all but one signature. Okay, so multi-attribute, next is the multi-attribute fully homomorphic encryption. So this is the basically the same step, but here the authority is generating secret keys corresponding to the function instead of identities. And again, we are encrypting messages with respect to attributes. So, and now the server is computing over the ciphertext, and the group members has to collaborate to decrypt the ciphertext. So the correctness is that the function should be, I mean, the attribute should satisfy all the function to be able to decrypt it successfully. And the compactness is same. I am not repeating here, but here also we are defining CCA1 type security, like for any normal attribute based encryption, like adversary should be given access this to algorithm, key generation, and decryption. Here A star is the challenge attribute and M0, M1 are the message pair. Okay, so the decryption algorithm should compute the secret keys first, then it will decrypt with this condition that C star C, I mean, will be given the Oracle access and it will check this condition. But for CCA1 type security, we don't need to have this condition because the adversary will not be able to query the decryption oracle if it already received the challenge ciphertext. But I have kept it here because because of the CCA2 type security that we have construct, that will construct, I mean, first we will construct AB CCA2 secured AB from witness PRF, then we will be converting that AB to multi-attribute based fully homomorphic encryption. So this is the line that we'll be using now, witness PRF and non-interactive JAP to achieve a CCA2 secure attribute-based encryption, and we'll then convert our attribute-based encryption to multi-attribute-based fully homomorphic encryption using multi-key FHE. Okay, so these are the properties that AB should be CCA2 secure. The AB should, I mean, our AB will be producing a ciphertext size which is mod m plus 2 lambda, and we can easily convert it into multi-attribute full page. Please go to, I mean, see our papers for the full construction. So yes, so this is, I think, the first CCA2 AB, secured AB which has the optimal size ciphertext. Okay, in conclusion, that we have seen one construction of MIFHE. If we assume all but one signature, witness pseudorandom function, and multi-key pure fully homomorphic encryption. And in the second construction, we have seen that we can construct a multi-attribute fully homomorphic encryption if we assume non-interactive JAP and witness pseudorandom function and a pure multi-key pure FH. Okay, thank you.